Tonight's guest, Ron Wainwright. We go way back to our teen years as Ron was a senior when I was a freshman, and we played each other in basketball in rival high schools. I played for Wycomico, and Ron played for James and Bennett. We were very good basketball teams back in the day, and we had fierce battles on the court. He just retired after 38 years as a teacher. And so we're going to talk about his experiences as a teacher, the many people who he influenced, students and staff, and his time as a basketball coach and a referee. And so without further ado, we'd like to welcome to a conversation with Brian, Ron Wainwright. All right, welcome to the show, Ron. How you doing?
I'm great, Ryan. How are you?
Good. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was making that intro, I was texting back and forth with Paul today, and we were just kind of reminiscing about, we were trying to remember what kind of car you used to pick us up in. At one point, you had a Jeep, but then Paul said he thought you had like a Firebird or a Camaro or something like that, where you used to pick us up and we used to go to North Lake Park. And so we'll get into that in a few seconds. But again, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I was a little nervous, but I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good to catch up, and we've seen each other a couple times at basketball games over the years, but we really haven't had a chance to sit down and chat and catch up. But one of the things I do, Ronnie, at the beginning of each one of my shows is I ask my guests to really talk a little bit about their personal story, their professional journey, as much as they would like, and how it led to where you are today as somebody who is just retiring. I know that's not the end of your story, but I know you have more to do, but I really would like my audience to kind of get to know Ronnie Wainwright. So who is Ron Wainwright?
Right now he's retired for a moment, and he's a father of two, and my wife Michelle. Still here in Salisbury, still living in Salisbury, which I love. But yeah, my journey to education was kind of a tricky journey. I wasn't really planning on being an educator from the beginning. That wasn't really my goal.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I when I went to school, I first went to Lee University
Right.
for college. But the story about playing in high school and playing through, around here as a kid, I just loved basketball. I
Yeah.
loved it. And I had great teachers, and I really had some really great history teachers in middle school, and I loved it. And in high school, and I really loved history, but I never thought that I was going to be a teacher, because at 12 years, after you do your 12th year, I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm not, coming back.
Yeah.
And what do? I go back for 38 years.
That's amazing.
So I actually I was playing at Lee University down in Tennessee,
Right.
and I'm Ralph Osborne, who was a really influential mentor for me in high school. Took me to Lee University to try out. Towson came down and looked at me my senior year and said that I was a little bit shorter than what they thought I was. So that didn't really work out. So I ended up at Lee University,
Yeah.
and it was great and I loved it. But I ended up coming home after my sophomore year. They had a coaching change,
Right.
and I came home to Salisbury. Sat out a year, played 2 years, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. But one of the teachers there, another one very influential in my life, Sylvia Bradley, was a professor. And she said, I don't understand why you're not a teacher. You have all the components to be a teacher. And,
Had you never thought about that until she said that?
not really. I
Yeah.
was taking history classes with her.
Yeah.
And I was going to get a history major with, I don't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a travel agent for a while.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, his dad was vice president of Allen Foods, a chicken processing. And he actually came to me and said, you're getting ready to graduate. I know you want a job. You're a people guy. Why don't you come work in the chicken industry with me?
Right.
And I really didn't have a whole lot of options at that point. I did get my degree in teaching, and that's another story. But I got my degree
We
in
want to hear that later too.
yeah, in education. Yeah, I did that, and then I went to the chicken factory to work for a couple weeks.
Right.
And Wycomico County called me and said, "Hey, we'd like to offer you the job." And I was like, "Huh, okay, I think I'm going to do that." So I went back to the processing plant manager and said, "I think I'm going to be a teacher." And he goes, "Might be a good choice," you know. So that's how I
Well,
got here.
you know, it's interesting because most of us did not think we were going to be in education or teachers. You know, that wasn't my undergrad degree. My undergraduate degree was in communications, radio, and television.
Right.
So, you know, I was thinking about following Paul and Paul's footsteps, but you know, again, you know, I was substitute teaching, and somebody said you'd be good at this. So I went back to school and got another degree. But yeah, you just never know how you're going to end up. And especially, you know, you've been at this for 38 plus years. You know, with all the kids that you have influenced, kids at this age, they don't really know what they want to be. I mean, we're asking kids to decide at 17 and 18 what they want to be for the rest of their lives, and that's difficult.
It's really hard. I feel, there's a lot of kids that kind of get lost in the cracks at the end where it's the what now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're not on the track for a military, or they're not on the track for college, and they're just looking for a job. They want to
Sure.
just be, and they don't know where even know where to start.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel bad for those guys. And I think we need to do a little bit more to help them, have a plan or a process to get into something other than the choices that we're offering.
Yeah, and again, I think what happens is we have to help people understand or help the kids understand that they're always going to be learning. They're always going to be in some type of school or training. And so that idea that after 12th grade, you're going to stop learning, that's just not true. And
Right.
anything that we do now, we're going to be in a situation where we're going to be in training, we have to learn a new job. And so, and with our kids today, they're going to have, I've heard somewhere, they're going to have between 7, 8, 9 different jobs or professions in their lifetime, right? And so
Yeah.
the goal is to help them be flexible and to learn how to learn and learn how to unlearn.
Right. My son's 29 and he's already been through three.
Yeah.
He's moved three different jobs. Same type career, but by
Sure.
29, by 20, I had 38 years,
Yeah.
one job,
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to that. You know, one of the things that I really appreciate is look through your social media and look through Facebook and look through all the kids that, I see with you in those pictures and how positive and excited they seem to be. And it's just, we haven't talked in a long time, but you're the same guy as I knew when we were playing in high school, positive, always upbeat, and somebody who people want to be around. Like you said, that person said you're a people person. And so why do you think that you stayed in education for so long? Because after 30 years, most people are saying, I'm done.
Right.
But you still had this passion, this excitement for the profession. I see you with your tennis team. I see you at graduations. What kept you going in such a way that you didn't lose your zeal for kids?
If you're not having a good time doing what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it. And I've always had a really good time doing what I'm doing. I really love it. The kids are kids wherever you are, you know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
really are looking for somebody. And everybody's looking for somebody. And it's especially when they're young, they're looking for guidance. They're looking for somebody to help them and not only just teach them, but be that kind of mentor or father figure or coach or whatever it is that you develop these relationships with that can positively impact them in what they're going to do in the future. And I think they keep me young, and I hope they keep me younger than I look right now. But they
You look
keep me
great.
young, and I love that. And while we're here, I might as well tell you too. After 38 years in Wycomico County, I'm retiring from the state of Maryland,
Right.
but I'm continuing to teach. I'm going to Del Mar High School next year.
I thought I heard that. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I went in today and started working on my room.
That's amazing. When I transitioned to my independent consulting and away from the formal education or the formal profession of the K-12 system. I had 28 years in, and I was, I loved every minute of it. I mean, I don't think. I think sometimes people say, they hear that you're an educator or a teacher, and they're like, oh, they're like, oh, such a noble profession, and oh, God bless you. And I'm like, I mean, as if it's a chore. And I'm not saying it's not challenging at times, but I loved it. I mean, being around kids and being able to try to influence kids and to change lives, that's
Right.
what you do every day. So think about, for 38 years, literally thousands of kids that you touched. And that changes generations, because you have done something and they go off and they say, I remember Mr. Wainwright, and he taught me this, or he modeled this, or he was so positive. You change people, Ron.
I appreciate that. Yeah, one of my good friends, Dick Morris, said that to me one night. He was like, I don't think you really understand the impact that you have had.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I never really thought about it like that. I just always I never really thought about it like that. But I love seeing, kids that you've taught, and you see them being successful, and
Yeah.
you see them. I don't care if you're a doctor and you're making $1 million,
Yeah.
or if you're just a good person,
Yeah.
and you're doing the right things and you're really happy where you are,
That's
then
success.
I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
good with that. I'm good with that.
You started at Mardella?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. 1985.
How long were you at Mardella? And talk a little bit about Mardella, and then we'll talk a little bit about your coaching at Mardella, because I
Yeah.
know that you started with a team that wasn't very good, and then you took them to the Bayside Championship. You got Coach of the Year in 1989. And so talk a little bit about your time at Mardella as a educator, and then
Right.
the coaching piece. And then I want you to talk a little bit about this book that you were in, High School Basketball on Maryland's Eastern Shore,
Okay.
and Barb McCool, because she's an amazing coach and I'm sure amazing teacher. So talk a little bit about Mardella and your
Okay.
experience there.
Yeah, Mardella was a really great opportunity to me. At first, I was actually supposed to go to Bennett,
Oh,
and
you're homeschool, really?
yeah, Ralph Osborne was trying to get me into
Oh,
Bennett to be
I didn't know
assistant
that.
coach with Jim Rain,
Yep.
and then Jim Rain was eventually going to retire, and by that time, I could move into the full-time
Sure.
head coaching spot.
Right.
And they didn't have a coach at Mardella, and then he said, "How about this opportunity?" And being 23 years old, I was sitting there going, I can coach basketball. I
Yeah.
can make these guys, no matter what they are, into something. I had that in my
Yeah,
head.
of
Well,
course.
the first year we went 0-18. We didn't win a game.
But
we
you know
beat,
what? I bet you they learned some things too,
oh,
right?
absolutely, and great kids. I mean,
Yeah.
I still am in contact with some of those guys, and they're on Facebook, or we see each other occasionally, and they're just great guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, the thing about coaching and teaching or whatever was I'm the one that's really rewarded from this, because I built so many great relationships with people that I see. And the great thing is, I feel so comfortable walking up to people that I taught at Mardella or
Right.
Parkside or whatever. And it's like I'm excited and they're excited to see each other.
Sure.
And that makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the big reward from that. But back to Mardella, they hadn't won a basketball game. They were 0-93 when I got there.
Get out of here.
Yes,
Wow.
0-93. And they were playing a JV schedule.
Wow.
Yeah. So he said, I want you to be in the varsity the first year. And I'm like, oh my God, we're playing Y High and Bennett. You know what I mean? Butch Waller, I showed up and Butch Waller looked at me down, with the coach of the week. He was talking to me. He goes, good luck tonight. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Butch. I said, just
Oh,
don't
man.
kill me. Like, just don't kill me.
How funny.
So yeah, but we I had a bunch of freshman guys and brought them around, and they stayed and they were loyal to me, and they went to camps and they worked so hard. And
Was it Charlie Boyd? Was he
Charlie Bird, yeah,
Bird? Okay.
yeah. I
Okay.
had Charlie Bird, I had the Owens boys, Tony
Okay.
Lewis, Rudell Brown. I mean,
So were
Andy
they a
Gray.
part of that team that got to the
Yeah,
Bayside Championship?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but we played Snow Hill
Mm-hmm.
in the regional semis, and Snow Hill was undefeated,
Yeah.
and we lost to them at their place by, I don't know, 18. They had Sharon Mills. He was
Yeah.
6'9". Their
Yeah.
point guard
Yeah.
was 6'5", Nikki Purnell.
Yeah.
I mean, they were loaded.
Yeah.
And we were playing them in Princess Anne at UMES, and everybody, you know, had written us off.
Right.
And I mean, I believed in these guys, so we came in with a really good game plan. And
Yeah.
Alan Miller, God rest his soul, I think he thought that, you know, I've beaten them by 20 both times. This was going to be a walk,
Yeah.
but we were down by 3 points with a minute and a half left, and Charlie Bird scored a N1 basket, and I'm like, oh, we're in this. I'm looking up at the Snow Hill crowd, and they're like stunned, and everybody else is rooting for us.
Yeah.
You know, and it was amazing. We lost by 5, but it was the closest game they had all year. They went undefeated and won the state championship. Sharon, I think, still has the record for most points scored in a state finals game.
Yeah, I remember that he was amazing.
47 or something.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That was great memories. And being in the book was really cool. And I didn't know Mr. Northern, but coaching with Barb McCool, she's actually she passed away, gosh, I want to say 15 years. I was trying to do the math on it not too long ago.
right.
And that was a huge loss for Bardella, for us, I mean, she was my daughter's godmother.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah,
You
we
know
became
really well.
yeah, and she, you know, she's a legend, dude. I mean,
Oh yeah.
just
Yeah.
a legend.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went in for basketball practice, she goes, "Let me tell you something here, Ronnie." And she said, "I practice 3 to 5. You practice 5 to 7. Just remember that." And I was like, okay, I know whose house this is.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't talk for a while. Like she was anti anybody using her gym. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Old school, huh?
oh,
Yeah.
hard, tough as nails. I loved her. I loved her. I
But you know
mean,
what?
just loved her.
And I've heard a lot of stories about her, but I think one of the things that I understand from her is her, although there's like kind of a rough demeanor, there's a heart in there for
Oh,
kids.
oh.
And what she did with Tia Jackson, I mean, those the tough love that she gave truly helped people in
Absolutely.
their lives beyond basketball.
She definitely was an advocate for girls and women
Yeah.
and being equal and empowered, and you know, be tough, work hard, and
Yeah.
these things will pay off.
Yeah.
And you know, and she would, I mean, she could get up on you.
Yeah.
And there were girls that couldn't really handle it really well early,
Right.
but they stuck. If they stuck with it, they knew that, I mean, she had nothing but the best in mind for the kids. Like, she was all about them being successful.
Well,
And
and
she was soft. She was really soft. And most people don't know this, but she was really soft. She would take my daughter shopping when she became godmother, and they'd
really.
come back. Oh, and my daughter would come back in pink shoes and all this stuff. And she was
Yeah.
like, no pink, no pink. Yeah. It was a whole nother Barb McCool that people
Right.
don't even know.
But she is a legend. I mean, in the same, you know, kind of mold of Butch Waller in terms of the wins and losses and the people that she's affected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, those banners, I mean, they're just incredible. The numbers are incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, when you went to Parkside, tell me the transition. Did you go because you got another job and you wanted to coach, you know, tennis, and or what was the transition like? And was it a smooth transition? Because you were there for a long time, right?
Yeah, I was there for 13 years.
Yeah.
And that seems like nothing. Like, it seems like a
Well,
blip.
as I mean, you're 38 years is a pie, so 13 years of that 38, so you know,
Right.
is very
Right.
small, right?
Absolutely. It was funny because one of my former principals, Mike Christopher, who's now the superintendent of schools,
Mm-hmm.
had
Yeah.
asked me. He said that there was an opening at Parkside and would I be interested.
Right.
And I really hadn't given much thought, but it was a good time. You know, I mean, I'd done 25 years at Mardella. A lot of the people that I had grown with there and had become really close with, many of them had left. It was a
Right.
new kind of, you know what I mean? It was just a good time to transition. You know,
Right.
we were changing principles. Everything was kind of in flux. And the big key was my son was going to be a senior at Parkside and my daughter was coming.
Okay.
And it's only 5 minutes down the road.
Hey. Yeah.
And So it worked out really well. And I'll tell you, the biggest transition was the first day of school in Mardella. I taught everybody. When the door opened, there was only 300-400 kids walking through the doors.
Yeah.
When the doors opened at Parkside, I'm standing there in the hallway, and there was a 1,200, 1,300 flooding in, and I'm just
tidal wave,
there,
huh?
and they didn't even acknowledge me because none knew who I was. They're just rolling right around. I'm going, good morning, and they're all just like looking at me. But it was a flood of humanity, and I'd never, been around that. But
That's
Parkside
funny.
was a great school. I had a blast there. I loved it. I loved it 100%.
Yeah. I saw you coach tennis, so we have a lot in common because when I was a high school counselor, I was a JV coach, basketball coach for a brief minute, but my specialty was coaching tennis, and we had a really good tennis team, and I loved coaching tennis.
It's fun. When we were kids, I felt like I played a little bit of everything. I mean, we played sandlot football in my neighborhood. We learned to skateboard. We played baseball, and basketball in the back. I remember my neighbor's mom, I used to go over and play, and he was 4 years older than me, and I'd never played before, and I started to learn. And then I started playing all the time in his backyard. And then he came out, and I mean, he was a little bit shorter than me, but I was killing him. And his mom said, Ronnie Wainwright, you can't come over here and play anymore. But I said, that's kind of wrong, but he still brings
that
up
to my
the game.
son.
Yeah, you're killing my son. It's pretty funny. But yeah, we played everything, and tennis was a big part of it. Because remember how big tennis was in Salisbury?
Yeah, it was huge. And remember the tennis tournament and Jimmy Connors?
Yeah. And
Bill was the Jimmy Connors' coach, but he was like the promoter of the tennis tournament that came.
Yep. I met Jimmy Connors and Ely Nastasi at his house. He had a tennis court in his backyard, and he would let us all play. And
really?
Yeah, they would pull up, and sometimes they'd come out and give us wristbands and stuff like that. I actually had one of the rackets that he would hand out, rackets and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great childhood memory. But yeah, tennis, I like playing. I mean, I played on the tennis team at Bennett, and my senior year I wasn't allowed to play because you had to choose between playing in the All-Star game. They wouldn't let you play in the So I chose to play in the All-Star game rather than I didn't play tennis my senior year because of that. But I love playing the All-Star game because I played with Paul.
And
Smitty and all those guys and the guys from up north.
We have some great players, Ronnie. When I think about it,
my gosh,
all the players from up north, and then just the players in Salisbury.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. That team that I played on that year was, I mean, those Whittington and Ward from Chrisfield and Darnell Clash.
Oh man!
I mean, he went on to play professional football
in Canada, right?
Yeah, he was MVP of the league.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's guys around here. They put a thing out the other day about local famous athletes in the Daily Times. The Delmarva Now.
Yep.
And they left off Harold Baines.
Get out of here.
I know. I was like appalled. Like,
oh my goodness.
I know. And as a freshman, I played. He was playing for St. Michael's in soccer. Yep. Oh my God. I mean, he was
amazing athlete.
In everything.
Basketball, he was good. He played
basketball,
baseball. We know.
Yeah, right. It was incredible. Soccer. Who would have thought? I mean, he was MVP of the North in soccer.
Wow.
I know. Crazy.
Hey, and so you were at Parkside for 13 years,
right?
And you taught is it AP history?
Yeah, I teach AP. I've taught a little bit of everything, but AP World, US, AP US, and geography.
Yeah. When did you have teammates, other people who taught with you?
No, we didn't really do that at Parkside. I don't think I was a mentor teacher for the interns. I did that for a while.
Yeah,
I've done that. I think I did that for like 20. Gosh, I think 30. I think I had them the first year they actually started coming from Salisbury University.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I had a really funny intern. I can tell you my student teaching story real quick if you don't.
Yeah, of course.
This is funny.
We want to hear funny.
And this is also a testament to you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room to be a great teacher or be a teacher or influence.
You have to be able to learn. That's it.
Right.
It is. But
I got a letter a week before student teaching that said I was ineligible to student teach. And it was because my GPA was too low and I had a 2.499. you had to have a 2.5. And it
Oh,
wasn't it
man.
wasn't it wasn't cumulative. It was just in the area of social studies and science, which was weird. I know. And I had gotten C's in some science classes, you know. But what happened was the teacher that actually told me I should go into education went and before the dean of students, and the dean of students at that time, I'm not going to say his name, he said, no, it's a rule's a rule. And although I like Ronnie a lot and he plays for our basketball team, we just can't break the rule. And so she said, I'd like to put it before the board. So they put it before the board and they voted, and they said that I could student teach, but I had to take a 3-credit class and get at least a B. And I was like, absolutely, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So the dean that told me that I wasn't allowed to do it, I actually got the intern of the year that year. Well, at that time, the student teacher of the
Right.
year.
Right.
And so I I got the letter, the little certificate, and I mailed it to him. I know, but
You know what? I rail against this because I talk about tests and scores, and we're much more than a score.
right.
But think about this seriously. If that board didn't let you do this,
No.
38 years and thousands of kids would have suffered and not benefited from your experience.
Yeah, because I would have graduated anyway with my degree. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't have had my student
Yeah.
teaching. And I probably would have been working as a salesman for Allen Family Foods.
Yeah. And so
Seriously.
and I think that's where we have to make sure we use some common sense. Like, this guy has something in him that we know he's going to be a great teacher. He's a learner. He's a people person. He builds relationships. Those things are more important than a score.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's like the kids, that my kids take the APUS, college board
Right.
test, and they get a 2 and they're like all beat down. And I'm like, hey, you are so much smarter than when you walked in here,
Exactly.
and
Yep.
look at what you can do, and you're going to get better. You're going to get better. Just this one test doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
look at the experience. You learned time management. You learned a little bit about working hard. You learned a lot. Don't shortchange yourself.
Yeah, I don't think they realize this, and I think that's your experience and your mentorship is in saying that. Hopefully down the line they'll say, "Wow, that test wasn't important, but the things that I had to do during that class and to prepare for that test, like you said, the time management, the discipline, those things are helping me in my next stage of life."
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Hey, when we used to play against each other in high school. And again, it was my freshman year. And I think for me, just what I remember is that I had looked up to all you guys because you all were seniors.
Right,
And so every time I played against you all, I was always nervous because I
right,
was like, oh man, these are people I've seen for years. And plus I knew you because you would pick us up and we'd go to North Lake Park and play.
right.
But still, it was still a challenge playing against you all, especially Bennett, because you all are always, I mean, when you play against rivals, it's always like you get up for the game. But for me as a freshman, I was like, wow, I just hope I don't like mess up. What were you thinking when you played against us?
Well, it's funny you said that. I was talking to somebody else about that the other day. When I would go get Paul or Jackie, or I'm playing with guys from Y High more than I'm playing with
Yeah,
guys on my own team,
yeah,
because some of those guys would go out and play. I
right.
had to, we had to beg Paul to get up to go. We had to beg him to go. But you would always be like, "Yeah, I'll go. Let's go play." And we went to North Lake, or if we went over to the reservation, or if we went to
Yeah,
Lake Street, wherever you went,
yeah,
my main thing, the funny thing is your story to me is really funny, because I remember going to your first game, and I believe you were playing Easton. Is that
yeah. It
correct?
was the first game. Yeah,
How
yeah,
about that? I pulled that out.
yeah. You remember that,
I
right?
had on my varsity jacket and my Bennett sweats, and I thought, I was something. And
Yeah,
I walk up, and I'm sitting in the top of the bleachers at the Y High Easton game,
yeah.
and you went for 37.
30 something. Yeah, 30 something.
It was 37.
I don't know what it was,
And
but it was in the 30s. But
yeah,
yeah,
but
it was
I
the
was
first
like,
game, and so yeah,
it was
yeah.
unbelievable. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, Brian Butler, unbelievable, you know. And I was like, I mean, it was awesome. It was like great to see
You know,
you do that as your first game as a freshman. I remember it vividly. I know where I was sitting. I remember, yeah.
I think it was the perfect situation for me because I wasn't. I don't know if you know the story. I wasn't supposed to start that game. One of our starters, he got in a fight that day.
Was it Marcus Carr?
No, it was Jerome Mitchell.
Oh, Jerome, yeah.
He
Okay.
was supposed to start, and he got suspended. So I got put in the starting lineup. So it
Okay.
just then kind of the rest is history. So,
It was
but
awesome.
I think it was a perfect situation for me, but just because I wasn't. I mean, I was a freshman on varsity, and I was pretty good, but I wasn't supposed to be the star. But then I had people who it was easy because I mean, people were keying on everybody else, and then we had Scott Smith, who was such a great point guard, and he
Right.
just gave me the ball, and it was layups.
You know, I played with Smitty at SU
Yeah,
the final
yeah.
2 years. And I mean, we were the first team at Salisbury to win 20 games. Uh,
Wow.
and my senior year, we made it to the Sweet 16 of Division III. We lost up at Trenton. But I mean, we and almost everybody on that team, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of the guys on that team that were impact players were from the Eastern Shore of Maryland or Delaware.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's impressive.
we were loaded,
Yeah,
loaded.
yeah,
Yeah, and Smitty and I became great friends.
yeah. I haven't seen Smitty in years. I haven't seen
He's
him.
still around. I see him every once in a while, but
Yeah.
very rarely. But I tell you, he's in really great shape.
Is he really? Well,
Oh
he
my God, he
in
works
great
out
shape
like
back then. He used to always run. So
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but we lost to you guys in the regional final.
that
Uh,
was that picture. That picture that I showed on the intro when
yes.
you were trying to block my shot. I was trying to grab.
Yep.
That was the regional. That was the final. Yeah.
I had the last shot in that game. We were down by one. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
we
remember.
only lost by two. I mean, y'all
Right,
lost. We won by
right.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, we were down by one, and I had the shot, and I came across the lane, left hook. Imagine that.
Well,
And I went up, and I looked down, and there was Bateman, Tony Bateman,
oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
he was wide open. And I was like, he can win this game because I got everybody on me.
Yeah.
Jackie's on me. I felt you're
Right.
everybody on me.
Yeah.
I gave it to him, and he went up, and it was you. I think you're the one. Didn't you block it?
I don't remember. It's been a
Somebody crushed it on the glass, and then we fouled and we lost by two.
yeah.
But I should have shot it. I'm still mad that I didn't shoot it today.
It's still in your crawl, huh?
That's right. That is the one.
And
Yep.
what's funny is Tony Bateman
Yeah,
transferred to Wahai because he was my teammate my last
which is crazy.
his senior year, my junior year.
I remember that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Well, that was our first time we went to state when I was a junior, and so that was an interesting time.
Yeah, I should never have passed in the ball. I'm still mad at it.
We have a connection. Chuck Driesell
Yep.
and Lefty, and one of the things that I found recently, and this is funny, like I said, Ron, it's I always say there's not 6 degrees of separation. There's like 2 degrees of separation because there's always a connection.
Right.
I found this letter that Lefty wrote to me on August 6, 1982. And he wrote me a letter, it's a recruiting letter. But at the bottom, he says, P.S. I spoke to Ronnie Wainwright about you. Please give me and this is dating ourselves now. Please give me a collect call when you have a chance.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's funny. I didn't know that. That's
yeah.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, I was walking through. I'll never forget. We were up. I don't remember who I was with, but a bunch of friends, and we were at the Capitol Classic.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Oh, there's Lefty. I'm gonna go say hi." And they're like Lefty.
Yeah, right.
And I went, "Hey, coach." And he's like, "Hey, Ronnie, how are you doing, buddy?" And he said, "Chuck's around here somewhere." And I went, "Yeah, I know. I'm supposed to meet him up here." And everybody was like, "You really know him?" We took him to the Red Roost.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I tell you what, you talk
funny.
about the guys playing. It was the funniest thing ever. The guys playing that piano with the
Yep.
banjo and all the crowd, and it's real loud.
Yeah.
He walked through the door.
Was it
And
silent?
banjo stopped, and everybody just turned around, and all you heard was Lefty, Lefty, and clapping. I mean, it was amazing. He's an amazing man.
Yeah, he's got this presence. And did you
Yes.
see his Hall of Fame speech?
Yes.
Oh, it was funny, poignant. It was just, I mean, it was just amazing. It was just great. I mean, he's just got this way about him that drew people to him, and that's why he was such a great recruiter.
He's another one I don't think that gets the credit as being so. He was a player coach.
Yeah,
I mean, and he
yeah,
loved his players and
yeah,
would do anything for them.
yeah,
And I think that, with everything that went down with Len Bias, it was just so unfair because if you could just see everything that he did prior to that with those guys,
yeah,
amazing. I mean,
yeah.
he was the greatest guy ever and didn't care who you were,
No,
treated everybody,
yeah,
everybody really well.
yeah, and again, that connection piece, Ronnie, because you know, fast forward, after they finish, at James Madison and then Georgia State, and then
Right.
Chuck goes to was it the Citadel, and then
Yep.
he ended up at Marymount.
Yep.
He and I connect,
I know.
and then we have a Chuck Driesell show on Home Team Sports.
Yeah, when you guys were on there, I'm dying.
Yeah,
I'm
and
cracking up.
so it's just a small world. But again, I appreciated that little memory of reading Lefty's note about you speaking to him about me. So that
That's
was
funny.
pretty cool.
He's a great guy. I love Chuck. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
Chuck is just amazing, and he loved you too. Because we should talk, he was like, "Ronnie's such a great guy," and so
we
yeah,
just, you could see him. I could see him tomorrow, and it'd be like we never even,
yeah,
no time had elapsed.
yeah,
It's like you, and it's like you've developed a lot of relationships through. I mean, it's like teaching. It's like everything else, coaching. You develop these relationships with people
yeah,
that when you don't have to see them every day,
exactly.
and but when you get a chance to, it's just great. And you pick up where you left off, and you have a good time, and you say, "I'll see you on the next one."
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
always say that you start relationships with what you have in common. And if you have things in common, especially with us in sports or education, I think that connects you, because I really think, like, sports is universal, one, but education, if you can't get excited about kids, no matter who the kids are, then you're in the wrong profession, like you said. I mean, you got to come to work and be positive and love what you do.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, there are a lot of kids, man. That they're tough to teach, and they're tough because for many reasons. I mean,
sure,
they got a lot
sure,
of things going on.
sure.
We had a student who was shot this year.
Yeah,
Traumatic. I
yeah.
mean, traumatic. And you're talking about
Trauma.
kids that
Yeah,
are
yeah,
14, 15, 16 years old trying to process this,
yeah,
that their friend's not around anymore,
yeah,
and I mean that's a whole nother conversation, but it's the idea that I just look at kids and they're so different and bombarded with so many things
yeah,
that it's hard, and they need good, stable guys that can just give them a hug every once in a while and say, "Hey, man, I
yeah,
get it.
yeah,
I get it." So
yeah.
it's weird to me. I think it's funny sometimes when I see these kids that will approach me and maybe hug me or whatever, and I'm sitting there going, "You're 16, and
But
I'm
you know what?
61,"
Yeah. But
but they
that,
treat you like.
they need that,
I
right?
agree.
I think every person needs that kind of relationship where you can hug somebody, or you can say that I love you or whatever, because a lot of these kids don't have that.
Absolutely.
Some of them, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of them don't. Hey, let's talk about refereeing, because that, I think, that is the probably one of the least appreciated jobs, because
Absolutely.
you can't make anybody happy, but you've been doing it for a long time. Why do you ref?
Well, when I stopped coaching, I love the game. I love basketball.
Yeah,
Like anybody who knows me knows I love basketball. I'll
yeah,
travel for it. I love it.
yeah.
And I was lucky too. I mean, one of my good friends, Russell Springman,
Hmm.
who left Bardella. I don't. Do you know about this story?
No,
Russell left Bardella High School as a coach, and
no.
he wanted to get into college coaching, and he went and slept on a couch at University of Florida, and he got moved up to an assistant coach at the University of Florida, and he hung out with Rick Barnes and ended up at Clemson just right before he was going to Clemson. Rick Barnes went to Texas, and he was at Texas.
Wow.
And yeah, and he and I had always kept in touch. He's now the head coach at Oral Roberts University.
Is he really?
Yeah, and
It's,
I mean, he's another story of a guy is just a good guy, and he deserves all that. You
yeah,
know, he deserves to be a head coach, and
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, he's a good friend. But I would go out to Texas and watch his games and see him, and he was at San Diego for a while. I'd go. I mean, I love basketball. You know, I'll follow it anywhere. But Russell is a great guy. I mean, he's one of my really good friends. But I didn't know if you knew that or
No,
not.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
And so what does that have to do with reffing?
Oh,
What do
sorry.
let's
Sorry,
get
I
back
took
to
you out.
reffing.
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
know it has to do with the love of basketball,
Right.
but
Yeah, sorry.
why
I
did
just
you
wanted to tell you that one on the side. Yeah. So
why did you get to reffing?
refereeing. Refereeing, I just wanted to be in touch with the game still. And I
Yeah,
really wanted to be around the kids that were playing it. I just I couldn't coach anymore as
yeah,
far as time wise with my own kids.
sure.
And I really wanted to be around my kids, you
Of
know.
course, of
And
course.
I had been coaching until, you know, coaching is rigorous.
Yeah.
So I could still stay in touch with basketball, and I could go do games, and I could develop relationships with these kids and the
Yeah.
coaches. I knew most of them. I
Right.
mean, you know, I'm doing Butch Wall. I mean, yeah, I'm doing Butch Waller's games,
Yeah.
and you know, he's making fun of me while while I'm learning how to ref. He
Yeah,
made fun of me
I
while
can
I'm
see
learning how
that.
to ref. Yeah.
Yeah.
And refing is really hard. There's a lot, you know, it looks really easy when you're sitting on the couch. That's a foul. But
Yeah.
when you're right up on it, and the game has really changed from the
People have
time
no
when we
idea.
played.
Yeah.
No, people have no idea. And
Yeah.
you know, lots of times during games, I'll like pick my whistle up and hand it up to the crowd and be like, you know, we got openings. Come
Yeah.
on, we got openings. Come on down. But I love it. I try to stay away from it. I told Butch, I've done Butch's games with some people, but there's guys that I don't feel comfortable doing their games
Sure.
because I have a good relationship with these guys. And a long time ago I used to say, hey, I don't want to jeopardize our relationship.
Right.
And they would say to me, and Derek Fuchs and BJ Johnson down here, you know,
Yeah.
they would look at me and go, Ronnie, it's not about our relationship. I want you to do my games because you know the game. You know,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
played, you coach, you know where we're coming from.
But
And I
think
like
about
that.
that. But think about that. That's a testament to you because they know that you're going to be fair, and that's about your character.
I agree. And that made me feel really good, but I still don't do their games.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't.
I understand that, but them saying that they had to make you feel good because
Absolutely.
they didn't care about the friendship because they knew that was going to be there. They knew that you were going to be
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really nice at the end of the year, you know, sometimes coaches get to request referees.
right.
And you know, I've been requested for some of the playoff games. I remember the first time I actually got requested for a regional final game, and
Yeah,
I was like, it was girls, and I do a lot of girls because I was comfortable around the girls' game, and
sure.
I can do guys too, and I do guys too, you know. But
Right.
like I said, I tried to stay away from some of those games because of the guys. You know, I didn't want to be. I just didn't want to do that at that time. You know,
Yeah,
as far as you
sure.
know, friends of mine coaching.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be who wants to referee the Y High versus Bennett in like you know,
Yeah, that would be
yeah,
you
yeah,
would
that'd be tough. That's tough, you know. And for me, they would also, you know, the fans would look at me and go, why are you refereeing a Bennett game? You went to Bennett, you know.
right.
So it's pretty funny.
Too funny. Hey, we're going to have to go in a few seconds, but there is one thing I wanted to ask you because I see it on social media at times, but I think it's pretty cool because I have a lot of friends who go there, but you're a big Disney person.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so where'd that come from? I love Disney World. I haven't been there in a while, um, but one of my wife's friends, they go like every year.
Right.
And they're like older, but it really is kind of like this tradition
Right.
for the family.
We have been 29 years in a row.
Wow. Wow.
And I think we might have, and you know, a couple times we've had a twofer in there. But you know, I just love it. It's almost like, I know this sounds really funny, but I feel like I can go there and be 12 again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I can go
Yeah.
there and be a little kid and run
Yeah.
around, and you
Yeah.
know, and that appeals to me. And the
Yeah.
good food and stuff too. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think I heard somebody say the other day, as I'm writing this new book and I'm researching it, and they said something like, we spend the first 4 or 5 years of our kids' lives helping them talk and walk, and then we squash that, and we spend the next 10 or 15 years telling them to sit down and shut up. Like we push the kid out of them, and they're like, we should be. And this person who shared the quote, he said we should be kids for life. He said there should be this joy in us that allows us to kind of relive where we were when we were younger, because life is hard. And like we actually live life as if we know that things are serious, but there should be times where we can just relax and be kids.
My wife says that I have the spirit of Peter Pan, you know, because
if you
don't ever want to get old. I'm fighting it, Brian. I'm fighting it tooth and nail, all I can.
Well, keep fighting it, friend, because we need more people like you. Like I said, you know, I'm glad that you are going to continue to teach. I'm sure Parkside will miss you, but I'm glad that you're able to continue to spread your joy and everything that you have learned over the last 40 years or 38 years. You're going to continue to share your wealth, because that continues to pay it forward for everybody.
It's a nice change is good. You know, it's hard to change. It was hard for me to leave Mardella. It was really hard for me to leave
25
Mardella.
years is a long time.
And it was really hard for me to leave Parkside. I mean, you know, when you're looking at these kids and they're looking at you and you're like, I'm retiring, but some of them knew that I was going.
Yeah.
And that was hard, because I didn't want to make them think like I'm leaving you for them, but it was good for me. You know, it really is a good, fresh, get started, meet new kids, start a new, you know.
It's energizing, right?
It is. It really is. My supervisor, when I switched from Mardella to Parkside, she said to me the first time she saw me, she said, I know it was hard, but I really do think it was great for you.
Yeah.
To really, you know, kickstart and just, it's just a whole new, it's like you're, you know, 23 again. It's just a new start.
Well, it's a new challenge too, because you have to, you know, meet new people and all the things that come with, you know, changing an organization or changing a school. It's a challenge for you, and that energizes, for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, you have to establish yourself, you know, when you go in and they don't know you, and now you got to go in and recreate who you are.
Yeah.
So that they, you know, hopefully will jump on board and grow and learn and develop a good relationship there like you have in the past.
Yeah. You know, Ronnie, this has been great. At the end of each one of my podcasts, I share this quote that I use at my dad's funeral, and it goes, "As I go, I am wearing you." And what it really is about all the people who I have met along the way in my journey, my life's journey, who have influenced me and have, you know, I look at and say, gosh, this person is somebody I would emulate, or this person is somebody who's really helped me along the way, or this person is somebody I knew when I was younger, and I've taken them, you know, with me because of the way they were. And literally all the people that I have met, I'm wearing, including you, your positivity, just remembering you when we were in high school, my freshman year, looking up to you and Paul and Jackie and Scott and all the people, and just you taking me to places in terms of playing basketball. You know, this young, you know, 9th grader and 8th grader at the time, and you taking me places. Like, I appreciated that, because y'all didn't treat me as if I'm this little kid just tagging along. But again, I am wearing Ron Wainwright. You're a piece of me that I will always take with me. So I just appreciate you and appreciate all you've done for our profession and continue to do.
I appreciate you too. And like I said, I think good people find good people, and I really do think that they have an influence on, you know, it can and definitely rub off on people. Yep. And I think that's what we do every day, you know, is try to develop those relationships, and hopefully they take a little piece with them.
Yep. All right, friend. So good luck this year in your new endeavors.
Exciting.
And again, thanks for coming on A Conversation with Brian, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks so much, Ronnie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Subscribe to A Conversation with Brian on my YouTube channel and Spotify.